Gotta give us what we need. Hey!
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power! Fight the power!
Welcome to the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580. I am your host, Adrianne Shropshire, and we have arrived at yet another Friday where the Trump regime's big, beautiful economy has been proven once again to be fraudulent. Jobs numbers came out today, and they continue the trend of stagnant growth and unemployment. And I will remind you all, let's go back to last month when the jobs report came in, and it turned out that not only were the July jobs numbers anemic, but the June and May jobs numbers got revised downward. So fewer jobs than had even been predicted were actually created in June and May. And then the July numbers were also bad. So you all will remember that Trump and his team lost their minds, not because they were concerned about the American people and how they were struggling under their terrible economy, but because the bad news got out to the public. So Trump threw a tantrum and fired the head of Bureau of Labor Statistics and replaced her with one of his sycophants, declaring that the jobs numbers would get better from now on, right? Since all the truth tellers were gone, or at least the head truth teller was gone, and he had replaced her with someone who would give apparently whatever jobs numbers he wanted them to give. But nope, because facts are facts. And even with the new guy in place, the numbers are still bad. So in terms of the job numbers, in August, the economy only added 22,000 new jobs. And on the revision front, they revised the June numbers down even further than they had when we looked at this last month. They revised the job numbers down. Only 13,000 jobs created in the month of June. In terms of unemployment, overall unemployment is up to 4.3%. And as we talked about last month, when we had our guest on to sort of walk through some of these numbers with us about, unemployment numbers and how they're different in different communities, same as last month, the Black unemployment number continues to rise. So the August numbers for Black unemployment is at 7.5%. So I'm going to say that again. The overall unemployment number is 4.3%. The Black unemployment number is 7.5%. And, we've talked at least a couple of times about the staggering number of Black women who have been removed from the workforce, both in the private sector and in the public sector since Trump took office. So 7.5% for Black unemployment, that is up from 7.2% in July, and way up since the beginning of the year. In February, Black unemployment was at 6.0%, so as at 6%, and is now up to 7.5%. So the Trump administration, of course, is flailing and spinning as quickly as they can about why these things aren't true, why facts are not real. One of his officials one of the officials in the Trump administration, it said that the numbers always benefit the left. That numbers benefit the left. That facts benefit the left. That data benefits the left. And I guess that means that lies benefit the right, if we're using his logic. But these numbers are the numbers. And even with putting their people in place who they want to get to say whatever they want them to say to sort of trick the public, the numbers are the numbers. And the economy is not good. And folks know that anytime anyone goes to buy almost anything, the prices are up. They've not gone down, as this president campaigned on and promised when he got into office that he was going to lower your costs on everything. And that's not true, although he is saying the exact opposite in his little social media screeds, where he's declaring everything that we all know is up is actually down, because up is down and, whatever. So that's where we are on that front in terms of jobs. We also, in the show, we won't have a full conversation about jobs, but we'll come back to it on another show. But we are going to talk about the ongoing expansion or threats of expansion of military presence in our cities. And as we've said before and many times, not just any old cities, right? Cities that are Black cities, cities that are led by Black mayors. We know they came here to LA. We know what they're doing in Washington, D.C. right now. Trump continues to hold the threat of sending troops into Chicago over everyone's head. In the state of Illinois, folks know that the people in Chicago are pushing back. We've seen clergy organizing this week in real numbers. A group of clergy members put a public letter in the Chicago newspaper, putting Trump on blast. And if you didn't get a chance to see that, look up clergy letter in the Chicago Sun-Times and read what the clergy had to say. It was quite phenomenal. But we're seeing this expansion. And so today we're going to talk with Vince Warren with the Center for Constitutional Rights about what all this means in terms of whether or not this is legal or not. We know that we had a court decision this week on the Posse Comitatus Act that actually said that Trump's actions in Los Angeles were, in fact, illegal. So Vince is going to talk us through that, what this Posse Comitatus Act decision means, and what it should mean and what it might mean going forward. We're also going to talk with State Senator Lola Smallwood Cuevas later in the show about Prop 50. Folks know that there is a special election that has been called in California for November 4th. There is a ballot initiative that is an effort to level the playing field and push back on the Trump administration's attempt to steal the 2026 midterm elections by stealing congressional seats. And so Senator Smallwood Cuevas is going to join us to talk about what needs to happen in the campaign to make sure that Prop 50 is passed in the state. This is KBLA Talk 1580. We have a lot to talk about. Stay with us.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now.
800-550-9651.
Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call
800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte. Let's preserve black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandlost.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You hear that? That's Mike sleeping soundly on a Sunday night. That's because Mike was smart this time. He took ZQL Ultra to fall asleep fast, stay asleep longer, and get the deeply restorative sleep he needs. So now he wakes up refreshed and ready to conquer Mondays.
Let's do this Monday.
ZQL Ultra. Not for colds, just for sleep. Really great sleep. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Sometimes an identity threat is a ring of professional hackers. And sometimes it's an overworked accountant who forgot to encrypt their connection while sending bank details.
I need a coffee.
And you need LifeLock, because your info is in endless places. It only takes one mistake to expose you to identity theft. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at lifelock.com. Terms apply.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
You don't talk to me like that. Don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
You are listening to the Black Pack, and I'm Manoa Changa, tag teaming this hour with our fearless host, Adrianne Shropshire. And we're talking about the Trump administration's escalating attacks against U.S. cities such as L.A., D.C., and Chicago, things that Adrianne and several guests have talked about so well in the past. And really, at least in the case of L.A., the illegal attacks, right? And so joining the conversation now is Vince Warren, Executive Director of the Center for Constitutional Rights. Really appreciate you joining, Vince.
It's great to be with you.
So, there was a court case earlier this week when Trump sent National Guard and Marines into LA back in June, like almost 3 months ago now. Many people, Adrianne included, so many people warned that this would be a pretense to move on to other cities. And then last month we saw his takeover of DC, and then the eyes, the way the rhetoric set on Chicago. But this case, and with the judge and this federal case and finding this was illegal, can you talk to us some about, I know Adrianne has talked some about the Posse Comitatus Act. Can you talk to some more, just put this in context for our audience?
Well, yeah, so I actually want to talk about two things as we do this. One, the court cases and the law really talk about what the president can and can't do. But we also need to talk about what the president should and should not do. Those are two very different things. And so in terms of what the president can and can't do, there are a number of federal statutes that define what the president's power is. And so you're going to hear in the discussion about the Posse Comitatus Act. So let me just tell you what that's about. This act makes it a crime to use members of the standing military to execute laws unless it's expressly or authorized by the Constitution or an act of Congress. So this was a law that was passed in 1878, and it basically is saying that it's a bar of the federal military to be able to be used in subjecting civilians to military regulation. So you can't use the military to do civilian law enforcement activities. This has been around for a very, very long time. There's another, and the reason for that is that we don't want federal military running around putting everybody under military control. That's a police state and that's a military state. And we also have individual states that have their own authority, that have their own rights under the federal constitution. And basically, it would be a federal takeover of state law enforcement activities. And by the way, state law enforcement activities are problematic enough as they are, uh, all by themselves. There's plenty to talk about there. But the basic idea is you don't want the army coming in and taking over a state and its people.
And so when we're really thinking about, like, obviously it makes sense that this is a problem, but like, can you talk more for us about, like, and just explain for the audience, why is this, not only that this escalation and the rhetoric is problematic, but like the actual incursions in this way? Like, what is the harm? What is the wrong with using and leveraging, in this way?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's the big piece of sort of breaking down why this is the problem is the why they're saying that they're sending folks in. So number one, crime rates around the country have been declining for decades. So there has not been a huge spike of crime in any of the cities that they're talking about. Crime is not out of control. We all would love to have less crime in every neighborhood, certainly, but it has not reached any type of proportion that would cause alarm. It's just when they march in on a Tuesday and say that they're fighting rampant crime, it's just like every other Tuesday for the last 10 years, right? Nothing has actually spiked. And I think there is an argument, it's a good argument about the training of the military. The military is trained to do military things. They're not trained to do law enforcement. They're not trained to do policing. They're not trained to detect and investigate crimes. And I think that's an important piece, but it's a piece that governors talk about, and they need to talk about it. But I think the more important piece is about what happens specifically with our communities. And a lot of our communities, the police themselves are like an invading army, particularly in Black and brown communities. And I don't have to tell anybody on your show what that's like. A lot of people experience it, so that's bad enough. When you bring federal law enforcement in or federal troops in under the guise of cracking down on violent crime and that sort of stuff, when there is no crackdown to be done, it invites federal law enforcement to do crazy things. It begins to start violating the Fourth Amendment. These people, people go to the National Guard. They're not trained on Fourth Amendment principles, and so they're just going to roll up on somebody. Yeah, I'm sorry. So the Fourth Amendment is a provision of the Constitution that protects people from unreasonable searches and seizures from law enforcement, from the state. And so what that basically means is that you just can't walk down the street and say, that guy looks shady, and you're going to, arrest him or even stop him or talk to him. There are all these protocols, protections that we have so that we get to walk down the street. If we look shady, we look shady, but that doesn't mean that we're going to be subject to. Speaking personally, I tend to look shady. So the big problem here is that these guys, these troops are not trained. They're going to make things worse. They're going to escalate situations that don't need to be escalated. Think what you want about community policing. Some people love it. Some people think it's a scam. But there is something to police officers knowing the neighborhood and neighborhoods knowing the police officers that can, in some situations, really de-escalate things, or there's something else going on. That's gone when you bring people that are not from there and that are not trained there. So it can, and I think will, end up in pretty violent confrontations. Plus, this is the other thing that's happening is there is no massive crime problem. But what ends up happening is you bring these troops in, they begin to escalate stuff. People react to the escalation, and then they look at the reaction and say, this is the violent crime problem that we were talking about, even though they were the ones that created it. So it's a one-way ratchet that is going to result in harm. It's going to result in deaths. It's going to result in false arrests and anger and really shutting down particularly Black and brown communities across the country if it goes forward.
And so is the issue here just with the fact that he's been going without a formal request? Or, is it this broader, consideration around using troops to quote unquote fight crime?
we are in the middle of an authoritarian escalation. There's no question about it. It's not like it's coming, a couple of years and maybe we can turn it around with the midterms. We are here. We're deep in it. How do we know that we're in it? Because in order for authoritarian regimes to succeed, they need a couple of things, all of which they're working on. Number one, they need to silence the opposition. And typically, you look at Europe, the first things that they go after are the intellectuals. And now we have our universities that are under attack. Then they go after the lawyers. And the law firms are capitulating. And legal organizations like myself, have shown up on lists, like the Center for Constitutional Rights have shown up on these lists. Then they have to also create a criminal other. And the criminal other, it's fascinating. I need more time on your show because we need to talk about this. The criminal other right now are immigrants and migrants. Interestingly enough, he doesn't talk a lot about black folks. We know how he feels about black folks. I mean, that man lived in my city for a very long time. Can't stand black folks, thinks that we're, the African countries are shithole countries, that kind of stuff. But he talks about crime as a proxy for blackness and crime as a proxy for immigration status, essentially criminalizing immigrants and black and brown folks. So those are elements that you need. And then the final element that you need military control to be able to quote unquote fight the internal enemy. And Adrian, when you're talking about the historical thing, it's not unprecedented. During the 1920s, it was communists, and during the 1940s, it was and the Second World War was Japanese. J. Edgar Hoover was talking about Martin Luther King, Dr. King, and the civil rights workers and the Black Panther Party as criminals, domestic criminals and terrorists, Muslim folks during 9/11. So this is an essential element of this particular regime to be able to solidify the criminality. And then what this regime is doing that the other ones haven't done in times of peace is deploying the military to be able to crack that down. Your mayor, Karen Bass, was 100% right. These are experiments. He's basically trying to see if he can get away with it. The courts need to shut this down and shut it down quickly. And I would not be surprised, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, nor am I a pessimist, but I would not be surprised when we get to around midterms, and certainly when we get to the presidential election, that he's going to declare some national emergency around voter fraud, this, that, and the other thing. And here come the federal troops again. And then we're in a situation where the federal troops are keeping people away from the polls. Everybody's capitulating and letting them run for another term.
Well, we're going to put a pin in there, and then we're going to continue this conversation on the other side with Vince Warren, Executive Director of the Center for Constitutional Rights. Stay with us. We've got a lot to talk about on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says he'll take legal action if President Trump sends the National Guard to Chicago.
So that's going to be our first line of defense, is getting a court to issue a TRO or other injunction against that activity.
Meanwhile, Black Mayor Brandon Johnson is preparing families for expected ICE raids over the weekend by expanding the city's Know Your Rights and family preparedness campaigns, plus launching a new immigrant resource website. Another rapper is fueling rumors that Jay-Z could be dropping new music. On Billboard Unfiltered's first live episode, Cash Cobain said he heard Jay-Z has something coming that'll, quote, shake the world, end quote, echoing recent hints from Memphis Bleak. And Black U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock slammed Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at a Senate hearing, calling him a, quote, hazard to the health of the American people, end quote. When Kennedy tried to respond, Warnock cut him off. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Shop incredible end-of-summer savings at the Scandinavian Designs Labor Day sale. For a limited time, take up to 70% off select modern furniture and decor for every room in your home. Stop by one of our Los Angeles showrooms today or shop online at ScandinavianDesigns.com.
Is this the title? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A couple of HBCU teams face a tough challenge tomorrow in week 2 of the college football season. Grambling is at number 1 Ohio State. It's the first time an HBCU school has played the number 1 team in the country. Ohio State gave Grambling a $1 million guarantee for making the trip to Columbus. 12:30 kickoff Pacific time. You can catch the game live on the Big Ten Network. Jackson State, ranked number 15 in this week's Division I AA poll, has a non-conference matchup at Southern Mississippi tomorrow. Jackson State may have a chance to surprise some folks in Hattiesburg. The Southern Mississippi program has been struggling. They've lost 14 of their last 15 games. 2 p.m. kickoff Pacific time on ESPN+. The Dodgers need to regroup after getting swept in Pittsburgh. They start a 3-game series tonight in Baltimore. Despite losing 3 in a row in Pittsburgh, the Dodgers still lead San Diego by 2 games in the NL West. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Here come the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Imagine a world without heart disease and stroke, where every person has the chance to live a full and healthy life. Join us for a walk to save lives at the American Heart Association's Greater Los Angeles Heart and Stroke Walk, Saturday, September 20th at the Rose Bowl. Every step made and every dollar raised means more people learning CPR, more life-saving research, and more time with the ones we love. Sign up at heartwalkla.org. The LA Heart and Stroke Walk is sponsored by Optum, UCLA Health, Keck Medicine of USC, and Dignity Health.
If you're an African-American mom who is pregnant or have a baby under 6 months old, you deserve care that lifts, listens, and lasts. Black Infant Health is for you. It's a free program with individual support, group sessions, and resources to start your mothering journey. BIH makes space for moms and their families to create community. Learn more about the programs in Los Angeles County. Check us out at blackinfanthealth.org.
Hi, I'm LA City Councilmember Curran Price, inviting you to the 30th anniversary of the Central Avenue Jazz Festival, Saturday, September the 20th, from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. We've got 4 pavilions, 3 stages of live music, plus food, fun, and a marketplace all along historic Central Avenue between MLK Boulevard and Vernon Ave. Our featured acts this year are Gregory Porter, Pancho Sanchez, and Jasmine Horn at the 30th anniversary of the Central Avenue Jazz Festival, Saturday, September 20th, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. along Central Avenue between MLK Boulevard and Vernon Avenue. Come out and bring the whole family because this legendary celebration is free. For more information, go to centralavjazzfest.com. I'm LA Councilmember Curran Price, and I absolutely approve this message.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to the Black Pack. I'm Anoa Changa, tag team in this conversation with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580, and we're continuing our conversation with Vince Warren, Executive Director of the Center for Constitutional Rights. And, you know, Vince, like, there's just been so much moving and happening, right? And like before the break, you were talking some about like this incursion and how we're seeing like while this is a different era, it's not necessarily in precedent, right? With this framing of particular individuals as like, you know, an enemy and the othering that is happening, the criminalizing of Black and brown folks and immigrants, and just like really seeing the need to not just be woke, but to be like really plugged in on what's happening. And as we look forward to what's happening right now, but also ahead to the midterms, etc. And so, you know, there's just this real like critical moment here, and just what does it mean to like really like think about how do we shift from this moment? What is the lock in right now?
Yeah, I think, you know, just in borrowing from another situation that's happening, looking at the at the gerrymandering in Texas, for example, and you know, it's playing out. Or what the administration is saying is that it's a Republican versus Democrat thing, but it's really a Black and brown thing in those districts, as we know, and so the Black and brown folks have the ability to be super demonic to Trump. One, we breathe, we do our things. Another thing is that we're very often in states that don't vote for him, or we're very often in cities that don't vote for him, even if the rest of the state does vote for him. So we're also political enemies in that sort of bipartisan sense. So it also then dovetails with the narrative that he creates about how we're all criminals. So you put all those things together. Oh, and then there's the DEI narrative, which is essentially that no Black person that ever has any kind of power deserves it, and that we're a scam, and that they need to be immediately fired or deposed. So you put all those things together, that it's a perfect storm for what he's trying to do. So he is, yes, targeting Black cities, cities with Black leaders, including my own city, New York, which has a Black leader for the next 45 minutes, I'm assuming. And that but that's also part of the playbook. And what he's doing is he's sending a message, obviously, to these cities and these states, daring them to step up and to say no. And then he brings the hammer down and then uses, I promise you, we've seen this before, the narrative change is going to shift from rampant crime in those communities to fraud and criminality of the leaders that are opposing him. So it folds in. That's what I think makes this so scary, is that he's saying the things that folks have thought for a long time, but he's not only is he saying them, he's operationalizing them with force and without any restraint and without any nuance. And he's just declaring stuff that's true that isn't, and sending troops in to enforce stuff that's not happening. Going to create a backlash against that, as people should be. People should be resisting this type of power in states and governors and cities, and he's going to use that resistance as a way to double down on his power. So it's definitely happening in that context, and I think what we saw in Los Angeles was a classic scenario where, in response to these unprecedented, really problematic ICE raids, people began to protest them, as they can and as they should. And the administration, a day after the protests started, issued orders saying, we're sending the federal troops in. They were waiting for the moment that people protested in order to use that protest as a fig leaf, as a pretext for criminality in order to be able to send these troops in. And so we're seeing that now. You can feel it in Chicago, right? Governor Pritzker and the mayor, everybody's like, we're not asking you to come in here. We don't need you. And that's exactly what he wants. He doesn't care. He's not going to follow those rules. By the way, the rules for the state National Guard is that you have to largely deploy the state National Guard with the permission of the governor of the state, unless there are certain circumstances that are happening, which the governors are like, these are not happening. But he's going to do it anyway by manufacturing the circumstances that he thinks are going to justify him doing it.
Yeah. So it is, part of the, we find ourselves in this situation. And I think I want to just jump back to a thing that you said before about the redistricting, because it is all these things are not unconnected. And I think that's also why it's so hard. And I know that for me, I know for, listeners and others that, trying to connect all the dots on these things all the time, is hard because it's, that is the purpose is to overwhelm people. But it is not lost on anyone that the districts that are being eliminated, whether it's in Texas or it's in Missouri or it's in Indiana or Florida or South Carolina or wherever they're going next, are the districts of offices held by Black members of Congress, right? So they are essentially eliminating Black representation in the United States Congress. And so all of these things feel like, again, this sort of escalation. I I posted the other day on Instagram that, when you wake up in the timeline where the Confederacy has won and they're occupying northern cities, punishing Black workers, right, and pardoning the traitors. And then, when you're connecting the dots on these things, and I think get to your point, I don't do conspiracy, but it's not that hard, right, to make an assertion about where we are.
No, it's not that hard at all. And you don't have to be a conspiracy theory. You just have theorists. You just have to know your history a little bit. So, in 1965, when the Voting Rights Act was passed, there were tremendous battles in the South, in the Deep South, around that issue. And over the course of the next 10 years, that there were record numbers of Black political leaders that were elected in places like Mississippi, for example.
Right.
Then the following 10 years, 75 going on into the 80s, if you look at the litigation, the litigation was states trying to prosecute these elected officials for criminality, for fraud, and what have you.
Yep.
So this backlash, the backlash that we need to anticipate is not something that's like your wildest dreams. We've seen it before. We know that it happens. We know how it happens.
Right.
And the challenge that we have is, when are we going to collectively be able to see with foresight what we can see so clearly in hindsight? We don't want to be in a situation where it's like this. We're like, oh, maybe it'll be different this time. It's not going to be different. This is what's going to happen.
Well, I think it's easy to want that to be true, right? I was listening to Representative Jim Clyburn a few weeks ago talking about the 8 other Congress members from South Carolina before him, right? There's been 9. There were 8 before him, all elected obviously before 1900, and all obviously removed from the office, and all of them prosecuted for right. Like this is a thing. This is a playbook, right? And it feels like that is, and this is why knowing our history and being able to have access to history matters, right? Because if you suddenly erase all of that, then 1, you don't know, but 2, you can't, we can't even begin to say, how do we understand what's happening right now, and how do we prevent, right, what comes in the future?
Totally agree with that. And I think, there's a critique that I think can be made of our civil rights community, which is that because it's been so hard for us for so long, that we celebrate all of the victories. So the first one elected to this, the first one appointed to that. But what we don't follow is we don't follow their eventual demise when people go hard after them.
Right.
And they trump up all of this other kind of stuff. And then what we do as a civil rights community, that doesn't fit our narrative of, unimpeachable Black excellence. And so then we forget about that, and we think, oh, it's probably he was doing something shady, and then we wait for the next one. But we miss the cycle,
right?
By only looking at firsts, when we need to be thinking about what happened to the last one, and what's that going to tell us is going to happen to the next one.
Right. Yeah, yes, all of that. And I continue to say that I'm going to get to this question about this court decision, which feels important given the threats to send more troops into different cities. So let me ask you to just maybe set the stage right quick, and then we can get into it on the other side. But what was the decision that came down this week, which I feel like it was 2 weeks ago, but it was literally like 2 days ago, maybe even yesterday. I don't even know. But set the stage. What was that decision?
So the federal court issued what's called an injunction against Donald Trump. And the injunction was, the court ruled that the deployment of federal troops in Los Angeles was illegal. It violated the law. It also violated posse comitatus. And the idea there is that looking back at historical precedent, the nature of the violations that were alleged and balancing the equity, the court determined that the Trump administration acted, quote, entirely in excess of its delegated powers and contrary to specific prohibitions in the Posse Comitatus Act. So it was a resounding hell no to what the Trump administration did.
Okay, so that's the stage. I'm going to ask you what the potential implications are for that on the other side. We're talking with Vince Warren. Stay with us.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
September is World Alzheimer's Month, a time to shine a light on a public health crisis that deeply impacts Black families. 1 in 5 Black adults ages 70 and older is living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD, and the risk is twice as high compared to white adults. But AD isn't just forgetting a name or losing track of time. Signs of early AD could be repeating questions, missing appointments, or struggling with bills and daily tasks. These things aren't a normal part of aging. Here's the good news. Treatments are available that may help if AD is diagnosed early. If you notice changes in memory or daily routines, whether in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatalsearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com to learn more about the signs and symptoms and a potential treatment option. This message is brought to you by AZI.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and brown-led led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
You don't talk to me like that. You don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
You are listening to the Black Pack, and we are wrapping up our conversation with Vince Warren, Executive Director of the Center for Constitutional Rights. And so, Vince, I want to come back to this question. So we got this court ruling on the Posse Comitatus Act, essentially saying that the Trump administration acted illegally by sending troops into Los Angeles. This is about Governor Newsom, right? The state of California suing the administration. We now have, I think, this week, DC actually is suing the administration as well for deploying the National Guard into DC. Although I don't know, Mayor Bowser be all over the place. I don't know. One day is this, the next day is that. That's another show, perhaps. But so what does the ruling mean? So because they continue to threaten, right? They continue to say Chicago, Baltimore. They're now New Orleans. What does the injunction? What will the injunction do? What should it be able to do? What it will do is it may be a different story, but what should it do?
So first of all, let me just make a quick distinction between DC and Los Angeles.
Thank you.
So under DC, the DC National Guard, DC is in a different boat. And I think that's why Muriel Bowser might be all over the place. Unlike other national guards, the DC National Guard is always under the president's command. So he doesn't have to jump through any hoops or do any special tricks or wave a magic wand to be able to actualize it in DC. And so that's why it's slightly different. Any other states, places like Los Angeles, like Chicago, etc., it's a very different situation. That the president actually cannot just declare something. So, and so what the court here in this case did was it looked at the reason that the president said that he was federalizing these National Guards is under a statute called 10 U.S.C. 12406. And he was saying that there are numerous incidents of violence and disorders that were bringing the folks in. The court basically said that the reasons that Trump was sending folks in were not reasons that were contemplated by that statute. The judge also said that the Posse Comitatus Act really does act as a prohibition on using military for law enforcement operations. The facts showed that the military was doing law enforcement operations, and it also showed that the memos that were coming out of the White House were essentially directing them to do that. So the court said this is a no-fly zone. You cannot do it. What does it mean? Well, the challenge with these things is that, so anybody's following along, this decision, even though it was filed on an emergency basis, came 3 months after the problem started.
Right.
So, the horse is a little bit out of the barn, but it's supposed to act as a check on the president. So the president should be saying, I guess we can't do that anymore. This president is not going to say that.
Right.
And so places like Chicago, Baltimore, New York, other places, we can expect that they're going to do the same thing, and that lawsuits will be filed by states and state attorney generals, that the courts will likely find the same things that this court in Los Angeles found, and we will be 6 months in. Everybody was saying that you can't do it, and they're going to keep doing it until somebody figures out a legal mechanism to stop them, or political one.
And so I guess that's also part of the challenge right now is what I mean, are our courts a check or are they not a check? I mean, it feels like we've gotten lots of rulings from federal courts that presumably say you can't do the thing that you're doing. And I would love to have you come back on and talk about the Alien Enemies Act at some point. But the courts are saying you can't do these things, but then it's just sort of up in the air. And I guess we've been in a constitutional crisis for a very long time. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I say that because I say that. You'll tell me if I'm lying. But what is I guess we're biding time here. Is that what we're doing?
We're in episode 3 of a 10-season episode of Constitutional Crisis.
Yeah.
And the problem, there are a number of problems. Problem number 1 is that the courts can act as a check on power when they say no. Problem number 2 is that they don't act as a check on power when they don't say no.
Right.
So these cases have been winning roughly 80 to 90% in the lower courts, and they've been losing 70% in the Supreme Court. So these things are not over yet. The following thing is that even if all the courts said no, the problem we have is an enforcement problem, which is how do the courts enforce what sanctions are they going to put on the government in order to do this? And that's the problem. And the problem with our constitutional system is that the courts have largely left that to politics,
Right.
and not things like impeachment or voting the bum out of office.
Right.
And that puts us squarely in why he's pushing to change all of these districts and ensure re-election, and maybe even for him, that it's the courts are, I think, doing what they can, but it's actually a societal political problem that we're going to have to grapple with. Courts aren't going to save us.
Right. And so I guess that's when we think about 2026 and the midterm elections, that's why it's so critical that folks sort of are fighting tooth and nail to make sure that we have some version of free and fair elections in 2026, so that we might have the opportunity to have something like free and fair elections in 2028. But I think that what you have laid out for us very starkly here is that it is a fight, right, on every level, and that we should be clear-eyed about where we are in this country, and that it's going to require, I think, all of us to decide what we can do, right? It doesn't mean that everyone needs to do everything, but it does mean that everyone needs to do something. And so I know that you are doing a lot. I want to appreciate you. You are literally one of the smartest people I know. And so I'm glad that you are able to come on and talk with me, and appreciate all of the work that you all do every single day at the Center for Constitutional Rights. So Vince Warren, thank you for joining us. When we come forward, we'll be joined by California State Senator Lola Smallwood Cuevas to talk about the redistricting battle here in California. Stay with us.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says he'll take legal action if President Trump sends the National Guard to Chicago.
So that's going to be our first line of defense, is getting a court to issue a TRO or other injunction against that activity.
Meanwhile, Black Mayor Brandon Johnson is preparing families for expected ICE raids over the weekend by expanding the city's Know Your Rights and family preparedness campaigns, plus